Forget expensive development teams. The most impactful software you'll ever use might just be what you build for yourself with the help of AI. Now, anyone can leverage AI to create bespoke tools to solve those nagging problems that you face day to day. In this conversation, we're sharing practical approaches to identify opportunities, leverage existing services, and craft solutions tailored precisely to your unique challenges. Whether you're a developer looking to expand your toolkit, or simply someone with a problem that just needs solving, we want to teach you the mindset and methods to not wait for solutions, but rather just build them yourself. Welcome to episode 40 of Tool Use, the weekly conversation of AI tools and strategies to empower forward-thinking minds, brought to you by Kinetic. I'm Mike Bird, and this week we're joined by Manuel Odendahl, an AI engineer, tinkerer, and a pillar in the AI engineer community. Manuel, welcome to Tool Use.
Hey, how are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Would you mind giving us a little bit of your background, how you got into development and eventually AI?
So I've been a professional developer for like 25 years now, but I always wanted to be a programmer, right? Like when I was 6 years old, I knew that's what I wanted to do. And I've been mostly on the back-end side, system side. Like I've done like some web stuff. I've been in embedded for a long time, for like 10 years, 15 years maybe. And recently went back to like e-commerce. And I think 3 years ago, when like Copilot Alpha came out, that's when I started using like AI tools. And then when ChatGPT came out, I was like, I'm going to do everything that I do with ChatGPT. So last 2.5 years have been pretty wild.
Yeah, absolutely. And that seems to be the trend with a lot of people who've been developers. And as soon as you kind of get exposed to it, you get something clicks and you see it. What was one of the first use cases you used ChatGPT for? Were you just kind of having a conversation, or did you dive right into help me with coding?
So it came out on a Friday, I think, or like a Thursday. And I was like, why is this on Hacker News? Everybody's talking about it. Okay, I guess I'm going to try it. So I first started doing like rap battles about Postgres versus MySQL, like that kind of, or like transforming all my code comments into limericks. And then I was like, okay, this is working like way too well. I'm going to try to just like write all of my code. And so starting Monday, I basically decided everything that I'm programming, I'm going to try to have the AI program it for me. So the beginning was pretty rough. I think it was like Da Vinci with like 2K token window. Like it was like a different world back then. But even then I was able to like slowly start leveraging a bunch of things. And it's been going, I don't remember the first things I did, to be honest. It was probably just like transforming SQL queries. Like I was doing a lot of e-commerce stuff at the time. And then, meanwhile, like 100% of my code is just AI, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll type a variable name or something, but
yeah, I find there's the odd day where I'm like, you know what, I just want to do it myself, make sure I don't totally lose it. But I mean, AI does 95% plus of mine as well. I try to adhere to the rule: if I couldn't write it myself, don't allow AI to write it. Like, don't get lost in the weeds and have it do something you don't totally understand. But I mean, the efficiency is right there. You mentioned Copilot. What's your tool of choice right now for developing with AI?
it's been fluctuating. So it's been Cursor for quite a while. I am starting to lose my love for Cursor. It's just like annoying me. For a really long time, it was just like I was just copy pasting stuff, right? It was like either copy pasting from my command line tools or copy pasting from ChatGPT window, putting it back into my code. And it was pretty tedious, right? Like I had a couple of like diff apply models in the beginning, but that was like really hard to do. So when Cursor had their pretty well working diff model that came out, that was really at the time I felt like a copy paste machine for the AI, right? It's like I would paste stuff into the AI and I would paste it out into the code, and I would do that all day. I was like, what am I doing here? And but lately, especially with O3 and coding agents, or like just autonomous agents like Manus, I find myself going way back to copy pasting stuff around, except that I'm not copy pasting like functions or lines of code. I'm copy pasting whole code bases around. So for the last 2 weeks, my workflow has been more and more going back to just like copy pasting code from left to right. And I think in terms of tools, it's like, it doesn't really matter in a sense, right? It's like mostly, okay, well, how do you copy paste stuff from the AI to your code base, and how do you find the stuff to copy paste into the code base? So like, sure, Cursor and agents help with that, but then ultimately it kind of doesn't matter. Like you could give me Windsurf and I would be able to do the same stuff. You give me like VI and a copy paste, it'd be able to work kind of the same way, just like maybe a little bit more tedious. It's been, in terms of models, it changes all the time as well, right? So for a really long time, it was Sonnet. Before Sonnet, it was like GPT-4 and 3.5 Turbo. And now it's like, I still use 3.5 from time to time. I use 3.7 for certain use cases. And then Gemini Pro is like kind of my favorite, even though it's annoying in Cursor. And then O3 is like kind of its own little world, I guess. So yeah, lately it's been crazy.
Yeah, it's all over. It was funny how long of a reign 3.5 had, just being the supreme model. I've also switched to Gemini 2.5 Pro for the vast majority of my work now. I still find with the reasoning models, I'll use to do like an initial, hey, here's an idea I have. How should I architect it? Am I missing anything? Give me some cool feature ideas. But yeah, I need that kind of quick iteration. As soon as I get too out of my flow, I notice that it's almost like a detriment.
That's interesting, because I use it the other way around. I use Sonnet 3.5 still. Like Sonnet 3.5 is still like a really nice model because I know it so well, and I know that it just like it's great. Like it is able to do good decision at the file level, right? Like within 500 lines of code, it does some really good work in terms of which patterns to apply, how to structure the functions and all of that. But the way I work now is, my current flow is, I will, when I'm lazy or I don't know exactly what context to put to the AI, I will use the agent mode and cursor to kind of scurry around and find like the relevant pieces in my code base. So I'll use Sonnet for that. I'll usually have like a seed document, and the seed document explains like the architecture, or I can show that later on. And I have Sonnet 3.5 kind of do a couple of tool calls saying like, oh, I'm going to look in this directory. I'm going to look at this file. I'm going to look at this thing. But I don't ask it to write code. I just said like, oh, look around and like tell me a little bit what you find, which fills the context window with, with relevant code. And then I'll switch to Gemini 2.5 Pro. And because now, if you start with Gemini 2.5 Pro, any reasoning model, they don't have very much to reason about in your first question, right? They'll be like, oh, well, I'm going to try to do the thing that I was asked. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's great reasoning. Thank you. Right? You'll be able to tell. It just says like thought for 1 second. And you're like, okay. But I wanted to think for like 30 seconds, right? And so once the context window is full, then I'll actually switch to reasoning model, and I'll be like, okay, now write a document that explains how to solve my problem. So I still don't really have it write code. I just have it write a document, but now it has all this reasoning. So you'll see it like, oh, maybe I should use this method from this class. Oh, wait, but like XYZ. So that kind of stuff. And then I'll switch the max on, because at that point, the context window is pretty full, but I still want to keep everything that's in there. And I'll turn the max on and I'll just say like, do it. And usually these 3 steps, like it's always like 3 steps, and it works pretty well where I can like one shot thousands of lines of code. So maybe I'll show that later on. It's like that's kind of my workflow for the last 2 weeks, and it works really, really well. And the thing I really appreciate about Gemini is the thinking traces, right? So while it's thinking for like 30 seconds, actually these thinking traces, I try to read them pretty closely, because they teach me about the code base really well, right? It's like kind of looking into the brain of a really caffeinated, good engineer that's going to be pretty rigorous and say like, oh, it looks like this class is this, and looks like this class is this. So while I'm kind of vibing still, I do actually absorb a lot of knowledge about the code base. And that is finally, after like 2 years where it kind of felt like development was like a little bit Russian roulette, right? You'd be like, all right, let's put the prompt in, and then let's see if it, right? Like, let's see if it fires or not. Now it feels like I'm engineering again, right? That I'm like writing a document, understanding the code base, and there's not this like, oh, let's wait what happens, and be like, oh, nope, rewrite the prompt, try again. Oh, nope. Is that even if it fails, I'll actually have a whole sequence of steps where I'll be like, okay, well, I did make progress on my task, right?
Yeah, I really like that approach. Being able to have the asset, almost like the source of truth for what the objective is super important. Whether it's doing things like evals, or even just like a human writing a PRD document before they get into a project, having it well defined and scoped out helps immensely. So having an intelligent agent go through and create that for you is super valuable. I want to give a quick shout out to 2 tools or 2 services I've heard about recently. One is How It Works, How It Works. put in a repo and it'll actually dive through the repo and show you if you want to say, hey, I want to replicate this functionality. It'll show you how to do that.
What
And
was
then
the tool called?
howit.works.
How it works?
I'll share the link. Yeah.
All
So
right.
it's just
Yeah,
how
cool.
it works, but yeah, they got one of the fancy URLs. I'll share it below, and it's been cool being able to explore it. It's from Hi, who made Cats with Bats, which is a really good video platform. And the other, Devin, came out with Deep Wiki, I believe it's called, and same type of thing. You put in your repo, and then it just in depth explains to you what it does, what the capabilities are, and just helps you kind of get an insight into how the code base works in a quick way.
Let me piggyback on that, the deep wiki stuff, because I realize this is something that not all too many people have been doing, but that I've been doing for a long time, which is, do you have like a repo that you kind of enjoy looking at, that, or like some code base that you're like interested in? Let's use Vim, right? Like I've never looked at the source. I've never looked at the Vim source code. So let me share my screen and I'll show you something that, since you mentioned Deep Wiki, I find Deep Wiki is pretty cool, but also it's pretty slop, right? It's like, it's not like the most pleasant stuff to read. It
did
nice,
feel very, very, very AI generated.
Right? It's like, it has a lot of bullet points. It has like a lot of, which is, I found that like this kind of AI slop is great when you ask to create it, because you know what you're looking for. If you see someone else's AI slop, you actually don't know which parts are relevant and which ones aren't. So Vim, GitHub, is that, I don't know what a repo is, but I'll show you how to do what DeepWiki does, but basically benefit from like, oh, I know what I'm looking for, so I'm able to ask the right prompts. And the way I'll do that, I've always been someone who reads a lot of source code, and I really like reading big code bases because you'll see how like complicated code comes to be. You know, things like if you look at Nginx as a proxy, you know that like somewhere in there, there's going to be like one line of load balancing, right? That just says like load balancer, very easy, is like one line algorithm. But like, where is this line? Like it has to be somewhere because it has to be efficient. And so finding where these kinds of like cores of certain repos are is like really interesting. And DAI is just like bliss to do that. And you'll see like one of the things many people bring up is that, you know, the AI only knows what it's been trained on, which in a way is true. But also, if you write a good document describing something foreign, then it like does pretty well. So this is the VI code base, right? Which I've never opened in Cursor. So it's probably still indexing it. But I'll do this technique that I was talking about, which is selecting Sonnet 3.5, but you can really use any of your favorite models in here. And then say, I don't know, analyze this code base and tell me what interesting parts there are. You can use kind of any stupid problem. It's probably going to run like a couple of shell commands of doing like find and right, like ls, and just based on file names being like, oh, this looks like pretty interesting. So you'll do that. It's like filling its context, right? And then I'll actually turn on the reasoning model and say like, please think a little bit. And I find that more valuable than DeepWiki. Like, I mean, DeepWiki is pretty nice. Like I've used it for quite a few repos because it just like saves you time if you want to get a quick overview of what something is about. But the slop is pretty big, and it tends to just like find the high level stuff that's not that interesting. I will tell you like, oh, there's like a configuration management part, and then there's like a front end part and a back end part. I'm like, yeah, but what does it do?
Right? Yeah, totally.
So now that we have all of this, right, like you'll see I don't even look at this. I'm like, I don't care. All I cared about was actually this stuff here, right? I'll stick with Sonnet for now because I don't think we have much source code in there. How are buffers handled efficiently, which is always something I wanted to learn about Vim. And we'll see if it's able to find like source code. And once it's able to find like, that's a wild guess, Sonnet. But yeah, once it starts like reading source code like this, actually it wasn't that wild a guess. That's pretty interesting. Once it's able to find like code like this that it has been reading, right? It's like this is exactly the kind of stuff that I was looking for. Then I'll ask it and I'll show some of my prompts to create like not all too sloppy documents. All right. And I learned something this morning. If you click here, oh no, you don't. This morning I clicked here and I had the token count, but I guess it depends on the model. So I'll switch
Oh
on.
yeah, because I feel like I saw that on Twitter too.
Yeah, it's, and I saw it before. Like oh, look at that. Okay.
Oh, there
So
it is.
we're at 40,000 tokens, which is for Sonnet 3.5 is the limit where it starts degrading. Like take the official numbers and halve them by 2, or like halve them. You shouldn't go much past that. That's when it starts making like weird errors and weird edits. So that's why now I switched to Gemini 2.5 Pro, which I say like the official part is like 200,000 tokens, I think. And then it also depends on the tokenizers they use. But what I'll do now is like explain in detail how the buffer efficient handling works and write a blog post for junior computer science majors that gives them a solid introduction and deep dive into the topic. So framing it as a blog post makes it like into something that's not just bullet point lists. And then I usually have a structure just to store all of these files that I generate, which is going to be, I call it ttemp. And then very importantly, I use kind of the file name that I use. I try to make it as descriptive as possible, because if the model does an ls or a find, it will find these files. And if they're called like blog posts for junior software engineers about efficient buffer handling, it will like, it doesn't need to look into it all that much. So that's what I'm going to call it. Blog post for CS students about efficient Vim buffer handling.md, right? And so now the thinking trace is going to be pretty long, I think. And I'm not going to read it, right? But this will teach you a lot about how all of this works. Oh man, it didn't think very long, but whatever.
But I do think you brought up a good right point about the importance of the metadata being something that is also, you want to keep it optimized for AI, because if it can more easily identify a file, it's going to know where to go. It's going to spend less time kind of searching through. So yeah, great advice.
And so you'll see, right, like this stuff that it output here. And I really like that that cursor is able to go like straight to the definition of these things. If I store that in a file and I say like, oh, I want to work on buffer editing, right? Like if I start a new conversation and I tell Sonnet, like, please, I want to do this, and I give it this file, it will know where to look immediately just because it has the symbol names, right? But it's not necessarily depending on what the current code is. Like the code could have changed. They will still know where to look for these things as long as the names don't change all too much. So it's like kind of an index. And then if you look at this, then you have like a pretty nice, not all too sloppy kind of thing. Usually Sonnet 3.7 is like better at this. So often I'll just like switch to Sonnet, usually max, because the context window is getting, how long are we? Yeah, this didn't change all too much, but I'll be like, make this even more detailed, use full paragraphs, search for literature, right? And then you can kind of build a really good document out of it. And I always try to make them nice to read, because if the AI gets stuck, I want to have a nice to read document and not some kind of like weird bullet point orgy. So this kind of showcases, like, even if it's just, in this case, like research, this is also how I create like my I basically have it write blog posts about how to do the thing that I want to do, right? Like a nice tutorial with like nice explanations and then full paragraphs. Because if the AI is not able to do it, I end up with a nice tutorial anyway. I can do it. I can then do it myself.
Excellent.
And so that, yeah, that's like what Deep Wiki kind of does, right? But it's super cheap to do it for yourself. It's just like open a code base that always interested you and start asking questions, and then you have like this great stuff here.
I love the idea of using cursor as a learning tool, and especially if people hear about a tool that they kind of want to replicate or take specific functionality out of, they get everything in there here for them to start with, and then they can just kind of pare it down to what is most important to them, and then take that artifact and then put it into a fresh code base to build something for themselves.
And if you extrapolate that to to like full agents, which are starting to become like more common, right? Like Cloud Code or like Manus or all of these things. Like something I did yesterday, which like kind of surprised me. I mean, I surprised myself every time with these tools. This was on Hacker News, which is a course about how to build an LLM inference engine on Apple Silicon. And so this guy was like, oh, like I wrote the code for these like couple of 10 chapters, but I only wrote the chapter as human language for like the first two. So I literally went to Manus and I said, like, can you write the missing chapters? And it did. And the result is like, I almost prefer the AI written chapters because they just like have more references and deeper search. But
Nice.
because the code has been written, I know that they're probably fairly correct, right? It's So that's been pretty wild to see that. If I look at my initial prompt, it's like literally write the missing chapters for this repo. That's it.
Amazing. How have you been enjoying Manus?
It's pretty great. Like what comes out is always a bit janky, usually, right? Like it's not the, oh my God, this is perfect, I'm gonna drop it right in, but it's always like it's always a really good first step, often.
Nice.
And
Excellent. Yeah.
knowing that it will only get better, right? Like I can see, okay, this is the first step, and it's like already that good. It's like the GPT-4 of agents. It kind of feels like, right? It doesn't feel like 3.5, which is just like, oh my God, this is like horrible. But it feels like, oh yeah, it's already like sparks of AGI kind of thing.
We're dancing in the middle of it, and I feel like it's gonna be a gradual thing where, frog in boiling water analogy, where one day we'll just wake up and realize, oh man, we've had it for a bit. Like things are just kind of amplifying all over the place. So pulling it back in, one thing I liked about what you've been approaching is you just built a ton of tools. I believe you have a GitHub repo with just like dozens of Go things that just solve different problems. I'd love to
Yeah.
discuss that a little bit. How do you go about doing that? Do you just like encounter a problem and do the classic dev? Oh, I could spend 2 minutes on this job, or I could spend 2 hours automating it, or like how do you go about building these tools for yourself?
That's actually yeah, it's a deeper thing because I think that when I started using ChatGPT for everything, I had to make it a habit. I had to like pinch myself and say like, no, you want to do it with ChatGPT, right? Because it's so easy to just do things the way you're used to do them. And so this habit of, oh, can I just ask the AI to do it, is on one hand, it's like a hard habit to get into, but it's also weird when you realize when you're talking about something, it's actually exactly that fast to type the thing you're talking about into ChatGPT and press enter. And so that was like a habit that took me a while, but is now deeply ingrained. So what I do often is when I have any kinds of ideas of stuff that I want to build, I write them down. So I have like tons of sketchbooks filled with ideas, and some of them, like one idea I'll probably have like 50 times because it just keeps coming up. And then I don't even go back to these sketchbooks now because it's kind of automatic. But I'm just like, yeah, I want to build this. And so, especially with Manus and stuff now, I've been like going completely crazy. So I was on vacation last week, and I ended up with 1.5 million lines of code of ideas that I wanted to have done. Right? Like, obviously I didn't write any of it, but I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have like I don't know, like YouTube Shorts editing software using Blender? And I was like, hey, Manus, do it. Right. And I came back with stuff and I haven't like even looked at them anymore. So I created like a vibes repo with all that code, and a couple of those I then cleaned up and like made them work. But it feels like being in a candy store right now because like all of these actually look pretty good, right? I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have something that uses treesitter to parse a code file, and then for every function it like tells me using the language server protocol where it's being used. Type that into Manus, and man, I have it now. Right? It's pretty rough, but it appeared for like $5. It's so I don't know. It's been a long habit to like not just think of which tools to build, or like actually get a sense for like, okay, what's in reach for a tool to be built to be useful, if that makes sense. But the problem now is just like they're so easy to build that I forget them. Right?
Yeah.
It's like I'm always annoyed because I'm like, I know I built this tool, I don't know how to use it, I don't know where it is, in which directory is it. I remember having it, but
No, that's funny. I got into the habits of just making scripts. If I did something, if I asked Open Interpreter to do a certain task, I end up converting to being like, "Hey, will you create a script to this task?" Then I just have it on repeat. One area I find people are having a bit of trouble in is they try to use the LLM to accomplish everything. When if you have like deterministic code written, all of a sudden you get way more reliability. It's cheaper. It's really automatic. You can just tie it into
and
things.
it's easier for the LLM usually, right? Like that's one of the prompting pattern that I keep telling people for the last 3 years is like, you try to have the LLM do a task, and you're not like trying to use an LLM to do the task. Like you don't know up front, oh, I want to clean up like messy text and it should be doing this and this. Then just add the 3 words, like write the code to in front of it, which will also cause like Open Interpreter to kick in, or like whatever code analyzer like most front ends now have. Because if you ask something like, imagine you have like a long table of like bank transactions and you're like, okay, which ones are like weird? I don't know what the LLM's going to do. It's going to do like weird stuff, right? But if you write like, oh, write the code to show me the outliers in this bank transactions, it's actually a fairly well-known problem. There's like a lot of stuff in the training corpus. So it's basically just going to say like, oh, I'm going to write the code calling the library, like find outliers. And it's like, yeah, that's pretty easy for even GPT-3.5 to do.
Yeah.
And so that's like one of the ways to build all of these tools is just like, I have a problem to solve, and it's often easier to write the code than to ask the LLM to solve the problem, because they suck. And then, right, like they're still copy paste machines. It's like, it's less obvious these days because the models are so big, but they still do the same like nonsensical, I have a wrong variable name, I don't care, I'm going to use it now. Like why?
Yeah, just invent a file name. Actually, something that's like right in between those points, I've started using Gemini 2.5 Pro to do the to do the timestamps for these videos. So I upload the subtitles and then extract it. And it used to just make up stuff and it would just be random. But as soon as that verify with code, it just simply goes through the SRT file. And it's like, here is where Manuel actually asked this question. Let's start it at this point. And it became so accurate, just from adding verify with code.
What code did it write? Oh, you mean it's like it looks up the timestamp and then confirms that that's what's in there. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, I should do that.
And that's like,
see, this is what I would write down now is like, which I'm going to do actually.
100%. Yeah, take it. Yeah, it's just one of the things where I'm not even sure if it will like write out code that you can export or whatever, but just by having it in the code interpreter being like, oh, let's do, whether it's grep or just similarity search or something, it's going to get a lot different results. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I think people should actually still learn to code. It's important just to understand this human to computer language that we speak.
100%, right? Like the fundamentals of knowing how to decompose a problem is like what allows you to build something in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Right? Because you just say like, oh, use grep to do X and then store it as a JSON to put into SQLite. It's words that actually, to string them together in that order, you actually need to have like a pretty good understanding of what they do. And I'm really curious how the new generation is gonna on board with that, right? Because it's so easy to be lazy, but also it's so easy to be not lazy. Yeah. And I've heard like there's a lot of people wringing their hands saying like, we ruined the new generation, they'll never learn anything. And I'm usually a little bit more optimistic about it because the kids are all right. And so I've heard from a person I met at a conference, for example, that their like 14-year-old son has reverse engineered the Roblox protocol and has like built their own like 3D JS protocol, and they added like audio control to it. And you're like, okay, well, that's what kids do these days, right? It's like I struggled like writing Hangman in BASIC or so. And they're like, okay, well, let's reverse engineer Roblox protocol or whatever. It's
yeah, that's why it's an amplifier. It can amplify laziness. It can amplify the curiosity to learn. It's just kind of making sure you nudge people, or at least demonstrate the benefit. If you understand it properly, you can accomplish way more than just going on and saying, generate a game for me. If you can give any type of direction, use the Unity engine or 3D JS or whatever. There's a ton of potential just for having that innate
I,
knowledge ahead of time.
I trust in the competitive nature of not only teenagers, but just like humans in general, where it's like, oh, well, if writing an app now is like the new like stick figure, right? Where you can just like, everybody can prompt and say like, make me an e-commerce app, then there's going to be a fair amount of people who want to be like not part of the masses and do something cooler. And I don't know what it's going to look like, to be honest.
Yeah, I tried as hard as I can to avoid predictions because even 1 year out, I really don't know where we're going to be. It's just the
It's
rate of
six
change is
months. I have no
astronomical.
idea.
Yeah, yeah.
What
The best thing we do is just keep building.
One thing I know is that things are slower than I thought they would be, right? Like when in December 2023 and then in March, no, sorry, in December 2022, I was like, holy shit, this is like wild. And then in March 2023, I had already like all of these things that people are slowly in a way discovering, right? Like you can make unit tests and you can make like fuzzers and like you can write all these internal tools and like it transforms everything in our workflows. And now we can have like logging everywhere. I was like, okay, well, in 6 months, the entire industry will have switched to these tools. And I still encounter people who say like, it's just a magical autocomplete that doesn't work. I was like, okay, man, like at this point, I really don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. And I get it. Everyone has their own little bubbles and we're very deep into it, but yeah, it's just one of those tools where it's so hard it's so hard for me to comprehend how people can ignore it. You can dislike it all you want. You can be skeptical of the future direction, but just the change over the last 2 years has been so significant.
The only way I found to like have people change their mind, right, about these things is to show that on code that they know. It's like I can show them as much code as I wrote. I can show them as many pull requests that I did. I can show them, they'll always be like, yeah, it's like a proof of concept. Or it's like, that's a tiny feature. I'm like, no, it's not. It's like 3,000 lines of code on a legacy code base. And I'll be like, no, whatever. It's like, but once you show it on like a problem that they have and you say like, oh, look at this legacy class. Like, do you want to have logging on every entry point? Like say, add logging to every entry point. And they're like, holy crap. Like, right? Because it shows them that they're not, I mean, there is a very valid reason to be afraid of these things as a software engineer, because indeed it's like a lot of our labor is just like disappearing, right? It's like what I used to get paid for my whole career is like gone. I don't do it anymore. And so there's a very valid reason, I think, to be worried about it, especially if you are in one of these roles in a bigger corporation that could totally be cut because like you're not very valuable to start with. So I can understand that people don't want to look more closely because of what might come out. And I totally understand that fear. But if you approach it in terms of like, look, obviously you care about your craft, you care about X, Y, Z. So let me just show you what it means when you care about this thing, what this tool can do for you, right? Which is not like write a lot of slop code. It's just like, just make everything better. There's no excuse anymore to not have stellar documentation, for example.
Great point. And we recently did an episode on AI for product management. I did a little stint as a product manager, and I had one buddy, Eugene, and he, without knowing code, has started building tools like dashboards and whatnot to satisfy his day-to-day job. And that's one of those things you'd have to be able to, back in the day, see if you can get any engineering resources and then try to squeeze it in. Maybe get like lucky, you get a half-day Friday or something. But the ability for people who haven't been spending the years learning how to code to just like spin up something as practical is super appealing. And then taking the devs and being like, okay, now you can output, whatever X more than you used to. Just keep an eye on it and make sure you direct it properly. It just feels like everywhere is amplifying kind of simultaneously.
Yeah, one thing which is really interesting, and the way I approach usually like where can AI be useful is like I think about the humans, right? Because ultimately that's all there is, right? Like we've had machines forever, and they're supposed to like compute stuff for us anyway, right? So if you take humans and model like kind of the human communication flow inside a team, for example, or in the context of building a software product, then it becomes very apparent where an LLM can help a lot, which is at these communication boundaries and at what people care about. So if you think back at the ancient times of doing, say, product design, right, where you would be like in the best of cases, which was really the best of cases, you would be in a room with a customer and a product designer and a software designer, for example, and just like whiteboard stuff, right? Like that was like the best you could do. Now you can actually, the whiteboard is actually going to turn into real code that people can try. It doesn't mean it works, but I can, like, before I couldn't even write like one line of CSS because it would just like pull me out of the meeting and then be completely useless. But now I can say like, make me a dashboard to edit like YouTube videos, and something will come out and be like, is this good? Like, you want a button on the right? And so during the meeting, you have this like so much richer information exchange because people can try out what you're building. It doesn't mean that I'm going to keep the code. Maybe I'll just keep screenshots of it, or maybe I'll keep the code and say like, yeah, this is a good starting point. But and so in the product design workflow, just like this would have, making 3 different versions of a dashboard would have been completely unheard of before. It'd be like, oh, maybe the first one that happens to work like semi-remotely, that's the one we're going to use for the next 10 years. But now in 20 minutes, I can have like 16 dashboards, right? And we can choose the best. And it's already half written, which means they will probably take me like an hour to push it into production afterwards. And it's like, is this a 100x? Is this a 10x? What does it even mean, right? It's like, it's very hard to clock what impact that has.
And along the same vein, too, you can say, hey, generate a static data set that we can populate the dashboard with. Make sure you include only edge cases, like throw in letters and words and Booleans and just random data types to see what will happen. And then all of a sudden be like, oh, that looks atrocious. Let's make sure to change that. And then you just got all this QA done with a prompt.
So yeah, this is maybe a good point also to show like a thing that I've been using lately to do that kind of work. So do you have any idea of like something we could actually, well, I mean, editing a YouTube video, right, would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So one thing I've started doing is I put my window always where it's bugging me. So I'm going to use O3 and I'm going to say like research UX paradigms for a YouTube video editor and make a list of 10 little designs, right? So I'll have O3 do some kind of research. Obviously, if I was doing real stuff, I'd probably add a little bit more details. But sometimes I'll really keep it at like 4 words. Where I'm just like, look, I don't know what video editor research has been done, what is out there. Just like surprise me with your probabilistic output. And then in the meantime, because I really like Sonnet for that kind of exploration, I'll just go to Cloud AI, keep 3.7 Sonnet, right? I do have a couple of system prompts where I tell it to not use like Lucid React, because that's usually the reason why it always fails. It's like, I added like a YouTube icon. It's like, but there is no YouTube icon. Too bad you waited 10 minutes for that. But what this allows me to do is then I can take these 10 ideas from O3 in 10 different Cloud AI chats and build 10 different prototypes, right? And then maybe redo each of them 3 times as well. And so now I have 30 pretty impressive, right? Like, let me just try that. React app for YouTube editor. And my prompting is horrible, but that's enough. I know that this is enough. And so we'll start writing this stuff. It'll take like forever. But in the meantime, we can continue discussing. We can do like our podcast. We can discuss more ideas about YouTube editing, which is like YouTube editor for viral shorts about mermaids. I don't know. And I'll do that. But I don't really need to be, this is not technical brain, right? It's just like, I'll either like continue chatting on Discord or whatever. But it will come back with these kinds of things, which I knew this one wouldn't be very interesting, but it's still like pretty fucking amazing that this is what I get for like 15 seconds of inference.
Yeah.
And we could start discussing saying like, no, I think I want to have like a drag and drop, or maybe I should organize them like this. I don't like the icons here. Most of this stuff always works, which is always kind of wild. But that's why this thing here is like pretty interesting, right? Because I don't even look at the results. I'm just like, yeah, probably some interesting stuff here. And then I'll be like, build number 1. And that really, I've been doing that for indeed actually uh, processing transcripts, and the results have been like pretty amazing, right? It's like this. I I keep them as front end only apps with like local storage and export to JSON or Markdown, so that I don't even need to build a backend. And you can do like some really crazy stuff here, which is I don't know, like Sonnet is really impressive for that kind of stuff. Swipe down to hide timeline or expand. Yeah, it seems to work even. So
Wow.
yeah, this is a workflow that I've been using that's like pretty impressive to do this. Oh, it did a research. It didn't like write one, but
Still
y-
cool.
yeah. All right.
Really
That
appreciate
was
showing the workflow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, like you said, it takes such little effort to just fire off some background jobs, get an actual artifact that you can interact with, and then all of a sudden you're 5 steps ahead of where you were before, and then you can kind of start getting into it, making tweaks and polishing it.
yeah. I think it just like allows you to refine your thinking a lot. Like a lot of I've always been like a pretty like I don't know if I can call it creative person, but I've been doing a lot of music and like a lot of drawing and stuff, and so there's something that's really hard to get when you're doing code, is that it turns on a part of your brain that just makes it hard to vibe, right? It's like once you start thinking about like, is it string dot split or is it like split string? Like you don't have ideas anymore. You like focus on this like ultimately pretty idiotic thing, which is like, who cares if it's like string split or split string? Um, but it hinders having like ideas such as what do I even want out of a YouTube editor, right?
Mhm.
It's like suddenly you're completely focused on like splitting your string that you don't even realize that, oh, maybe I actually don't even want an editor. I do actually want to have just something to sort my transcripts. And that's ideas you get while staying in this vibe mode, right? So I think the name vibe coding is really apt and should be embraced even by senior engineers, because it's a mode of building software that we rarely had before. We like often had writing on napkins or like doing architectural diagrams on the whiteboard, but it didn't go further than that. But now we can actually write code. I can be like in my code base and it's like, can you refactor this thing to be like a facade? And then I look at the output. I'm like, nah. Rewind. I'm like, okay, can you make it this design pattern? Can you like move this code out into a separate package? And it doesn't need to run, right? It doesn't need to be like perfect. It's just, oh, it allows me to get a sense of what that will look like. And if I like it, then I can put in the effort of like either prompting it correctly, or if the model doesn't fully get it, to to do like the actual work, which can still be pretty detail oriented still. But yeah, vibe coding is great. Like I think it's a thing to really be embraced as a mode of building software, which is like, I don't care what comes out of the AI. I'm just going to press accept until I get a better sense of what I do want to build, or it works.
I
And then
re-
if it works, right?
Yeah, totally. So I really like that perspective. I was very much teetering towards the I don't want to say anti-vibe coding, because I definitely see it has merits for just like firing something quick, but to be able to embrace the creativity part of your brain and being able to kind of look high level rather than getting into the weeds definitely has merit, especially if you're just cognizant of what you're doing. Like if you're saying I want to make like scalable, secure, production ready code, I think you got to keep your head in the game a little bit more. But if you're just looking for a new feature or exploring, experimenting, it has a lot of merit.
That's where experience comes in, right? Like the more you know the fundamentals, like even if you do really like hardcore like security work or like low level piping things together, right? Like you have a pretty good sense of you have a pretty well developed intuition of like, how do things decompose? Do I need like a kernel driver, or do I need like threads, or what's the problem with threads? It's like, oh, maybe mutexes are not the best idea here, or like, should I use this crypto algorithm and not this one? And that allows you to vibe at a totally different level where you're like, oh, build like a zero knowledge architecture for XYZ. And then you see, oh, interesting, it uses this thing, right? It's like you just apply your knowledge. Doesn't mean you accept this to be the end all be all, but it will be, because I've been building like, having been an embedded engineer, which is like, it's not the most complicated code you can write, but it's like you need to be cognizant of like memory allocation, like memory usage. If you have like 2 kilobytes, you can't
Right.
But you
Yeah.
could still vibe, right? Like it is able, like if I see static const car 512 and I'm like, okay, this is 512 bytes. I don't need to switch my brain to detail mode to know like, yeah, this looks decent, right? Like let's move on.
Mhm.
And then if it actually also work, I'll be like, okay, maybe I should look like even more closely but at some point I'll be like, my experience allows me to tell, oh yeah, this is good, right? At a glance, I see like, oh, there's no like global variable. Cool. Like, there's no global variable. I don't need to think about it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're a beginner and you don't know that, then you obviously have no idea if something's good or not. You could have a global variable in there with a mutex around it and be like, I don't know, let's move on. But it will cost you really badly, right?
Yep. There was one thing that we talked about before that I want to make sure we get to because I thought it was really interesting. When you mentioned you like building to me privately, you might have been building regular tools, but then you expose it via MCP, so then the AI gets to take advantage of this. Could you kind of walk through that process a bit? How you can take a regular classic tool or a script and then enable it to be used by an LLM?
I mean, I must admit, I should use MCPs more. I don't really do. But I built an MCP server which allows me to pretty quickly wrap shell scripts, right?
Nice.
Because like a lot of the value of MCP is like mostly just like local tools for yourself. Because if you're building something that's like for production or whatever, then adding an MCP protocol in the middle kind of doesn't make sense. So most of this MCP is like, oh, well, for this session, I really want to use XYZ, or I want to give this agent the ability to like read my email or like, to read my development database. And because they don't need any schema, right? Like it's just string in, string out. Um, what I do is just like allow shell scripts to be wrapped, ultimately to do prompt engineering on shell scripts, right? And then in the shell script, they just like hard code tokens. I just do like the most horrible stuff. But that way you can turn any ugliest, like grep said, pipe it into the GitHub CLI, get it back, and like send an email with like the mail command line tool. You can make that into a tool that's called like email me the latest GitHub pull request or something like that. And once you give an LLM the tool, send me the latest GitHub pull request, then suddenly it's able to do all this like crazy work with it, even though it was like the ugliest shell script that you've ever done. So, and yeah, I think this is the kind of MCP tools I've been doing, which is like, oh, for this session, I really want to reuse this like shell script that I just created to, I don't know, grep for patterns in the log files and then looking up the IDs in the database, something like that. But then for this session, I'll have this tool enabled and I'll be able to do a lot of cool stuff. And then I'll throw the shell script away and be like, yeah, it's done.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, I love being able to expose it. I'm similar. I haven't been using it as much as maybe I should be, but starting to explore it. There's one service called Tool Hive, and it kind of has a bigger focus on security for it. So I've been playing around with it. And one thing I've added to my cursor is the ability to connect to my GitHub. So I can work on the coding and be like, hey, can you please just like check the issue, make sure you get the requirements that I need to fulfill. And then I don't even have to like leave cursor to go check GitHub and then just, refresh my memory. I
It's
just
so
have
good,
the
isn't
agent
it?
do it right there.
It's
Yeah,
so
and it's just
good
kind
to
of
be
staying in
able
the
to be
zone.
like close 28, please. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay. Or like, tell me the last tickets I had. But I can actually quickly share my screen and show you what my GitHub MCP tool looks like, because that's actually a pretty good example, right? Like doing GitHub authentication and something that's like a real enterprise tool is like kind of annoying.
Mhm.
And right, because you have like your OAuth dance, and then it has to be like for the MCP session and all of that. Here, however, in examples, I think I do have GitHub. And so say list GitHub issues. So this is the prompt engineering, right? Like this is the schema definition where it says like, this is how you should use the tool. And these are like the flags that you have. And then at the end, it's like, this is even uglier than it needs to be. Um, then at the end, it's just like, right, it takes the command of like GitHub issue list, like literally the command line tool. I even hard coded the repo name in here.
Nice.
But that's enough, right? Because like the output of the CLI tool is actually human readable. So the better the human readability is, the better for the LLM. Often giving it JSON is actually counterproductive. Um, so that's good enough. Like these, and this is generated, right? Like I just say like, please, and it's garbage because shell scripts have all these escaping needs. So I have to do something better here. But that's literally how I built my GitHub MCP, is like just having it call like GH issue comment. And in a way you can like bypass the whole MCP and just tell like cursor, like, look, when you want to get the issue list, just call GH issue list. So that was a hack that I was using before. But yeah, I was playing with this in case I want to do something a little bit more complicated. But you can bypass all of this and just say like, look, I created a shell script that's called like get last database entries.sh. Please call it when you want to get the last database entries.sh. You know, just like
Nice and easy.
who needs
Sorry, do you use
MCP?
cursor rules or anything like that to kind of guide it towards those things, or?
I tried and it felt very flaky and buggy. So I guess I was probably just unlucky, and I tried it the week where it was actually flaky and buggy. I was like, oh, it doesn't seem to really catch and do that. So maybe I'll just like reference the file that has the rules that I need to use. So I use it I have stuff in my settings which just says like the 4 or 5 different frameworks that I use when I write in Go. I think that's like a thing I have in cursor rules. Just like always use error group when you want to do coroutines, and always use this thing when you want to do X. And that's I know people are using them a lot. And this morning I was like, I should really look back into this. But there's this like bigger, and it may be one of the tools that was the most useful for me for a long time before I switched to cursor. Ultimately, what cursor rules are and what all these like different mechanisms of doing things, they're basically ways to dynamically expand your context with information that's relevant, right? And it could be like a cursor rule. It could be like an agent search that does RAG. Ultimately, they're all doing the same. It's like, I want fresh information to put into my context for the task that I'm doing right now. And maybe the cursor rule applies because I am working on a file in this directory, or I'm working on a Go file. But there's nothing super magic to it than, for example, if you think about linting rules, anything that gets injected into your context is fair game. Like there's no difference between injecting a linting rule or injecting a cursor rule besides the prompting that you want to do around it. And so you can think of linters, for example, as dynamic cursor rules, except they're really, really good because they literally tell you shouldn't call this variable this name, which you can put in a cursor rule. You could say like, if you name a variable XYZ, you shouldn't do it. But like a linter is much more efficient at doing it, which is like, this variable on line 56, you should call it XYZ. But it's the same concept. It's like putting stuff into your context to help the model do the right thing. So these static files I find very limiting because they're static. So you have to do prompt engineering to make them general, to always apply to the right thing. But it's hard because it's hard to describe stuff in a generic manner, right? Whereas if you have like type checks that tells you this should be a float, not an int, that's pretty precise, right? And so one of the tools that I'm starting to use again is it was called Prompto. And so back in the copy paste days, right? Like where you didn't have an editor that would automatically send, the file names and the functions and the linting things. Let me see. This Prompto thing was kind of the idea, well, what if I have shell scripts in my repo that allow me to quickly gather context for something, right? So if I go, say, to my MCP repository and I want to say, quickly get the definitions so I have a tool that uses tree sitter to get context. All of that stuff was really, really important back when you had like 4,000 tokens. Like you really had to micromanage your context window. So I couldn't, but however, like going through a file and like grepping for func was like kind of hardcore. So I had this tool that would just like get, for example, the definitions, right? And I built this tool called Prompto to quickly be able to access those. So say I was working on the Flipper 0 firmware, And one of
Nice.
them was like, say, getting the hardware abstraction layer headers, because I often wanted to like get these headers, right? And so if I show you what this hardware abstraction layers thing is, it's like literally just catting 3 header files, right? But if I call it and say like git flipper hal headers, then I shouldn't typo it. Then it will actually give me that immediately so that I can just copy paste it into ChatGPT, right? And now I have
Nice.
it. It tells me it's like 50,000 tokens, and I can send it to O3 and just say like, explain. I don't know. And so this tool, I think if you know repo prompt, for example, I think is something that's going into this direction. And if you think about MCPs, for example, there's a lot of MCPs that give you context about a certain library, right? That tell you how to use certain components or so. They're like basically dynamic context expansion things. And so in a way, this is like my previous ways of doing MCPs is that I used to have shell script that are called like, get me the top database things, right? It's like, let me see if I still have some of those. But let me show you the cool thing about this, which is that I have a web front end for it.
Nice.
Which was like, a Claude away. It was like, I want to have a nice interface for this. So I just like took the code, pasted it in Claude and said like, I want a nice interface for this.
That's all you
And
got to do.
so this allows me to like quickly access documentation about my framework with, this is the killer thing, is that these things are always up to date because they're getting grabbed out of the code base, right? So it's like a dynamic document that I don't need to be too concerned about editing. And then I have all this like nice little thing here. This is all stuff that Claude added and was like, yeah, sure, I'll take it. I was like, oh, can you have like a favorite list here that's stored in local storage? And like, yeah, sure. Here you go. So all these like, this would have taken me a day before probably to build, right? Like, or it would have taken me like 2-3 hours, and then I would have been really tired and I wouldn't have programmed the next day. Now it's like, okay, guess I'll roll with it.
So
So
cool.
this, I think we're starting to see it, right? Because I did this thing where I can configure like a list of repositories in which this tool is going to look for context things, which means every repo, I just have a repository, I have a directory for these dynamic prompts, and then they're just, everybody who clones this directory and uses my tool has them available. And I think that's more and more where we're going to go. And, I should have blogged about this a long time ago to become like a luminary of all of this.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do. It's like literally a shell script, right? It's a shell script plus 100-line Go file that just looks over all these directories and just like calls the shell script. It's pretty ridiculous how like the simplest idea is, having the idea is the hard part, right?
Yep. And that's why if people are domain experts or they work in things that aren't traditional software, they have ideas. Like they have the exposure, they have the experience, and now they have the ability to just kind of go out and turn into reality.
It's so I don't know if you've seen that, but I found for a long time it's changing a little bit, but programmers are not really good prompters and they're not really good at writing software with LLMs, while people who know nothing about softwares are able to prompt themselves really far, because they'll basically just type like, make me an app to like sort my recipes, and that will work pretty well, right? Like that will cause the models to do some pretty good stuff. And then, but if you're a programmer, you go in, it's like, make me a React application using Prisma DB version 3.5 using like this pattern, and like the model's not gonna, it's just gonna produce something that doesn't work. And
Yep.
that's something I've consistently seen where developers will super quickly go into the details or like go right there and not actually care about the idea, right? So suddenly the little thing of like, build me an app to make recipes is like 100th of the prompt, but actually you want it to be like front and center and be like, if the model, and if these tools, and we're getting like scaringly close now, where that's all you need to say, right? Like that's what it means to have a model write software for you is like I type in, make me an app to edit YouTube videos, and out comes an app to edit YouTube videos. And because I haven't specified more, it has like a super wide gamut of things. But if I then realize like, oh, I actually want to edit YouTube videos with my voice or something like that, then it all becomes about ideas and understanding yourself and your goal. And I think as developers, we've lost that quite a bit, and we have to reconnect with it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Think more about the goal, like the problem you're solving, rather than like the minutia. There's one thing I wanted to cover before we run out of time.
Yeah,
You
because
first came on radar with AI in action on Latent Space Discord. Could you tell the audience about that a bit? Who might be the type of person that might want to show up to that? What type of things you discuss?
so Latent Space is the Swix's Discord, and Swix has a podcast that's called Latent Spaces as well, which is amazing. And on this Discord for a long time, there was like a club called LLM Paper Club where people would read like LLM papers and discuss them, which was pretty heady, right? Like it's too heady for me. And so Kevin Cable, who I think started the LLM Paper Club, said, "Oh, I want something that's a little bit more concrete," and created what's called the AI in Action Club. So every Friday at 4 p.m. EST, I think 1 p.m. PST, we meet. It's pretty scruffy. Like whoever wants to present, can sign up to present. So, and people show what they use AI in action for, basically. So, like Flo has shown all his music stuff. I'm usually kind of the backup person showing whatever I've been like working on. We've had people show the models that they train to do like OCR. We've had all kinds of people present basically what they're working on. And it's always really fun. It's like not it's I think it's just very grassroots, which I really enjoy. So it's yeah, it's a great community because it's just people who just build stuff and want to show it off and like don't necessarily care about monetizing any of it. Like that's never part of the conversation. It's more like, look what I built. This is cool.
Yeah. One time, Yikes tagged me, and he's like, "Hey, will you present on it?" And I gave one. Super welcoming community. Everyone's supportive. It's just the desire to learn and build and show off and just be like, this is what you can do in this day. So I think it's a great club to be a part of.
Yeah, it's my favorite community, right? Because it's I've joined Twitter recently, or like went back to Twitter, and it's like exhausting. It's just like it's not very pleasant overall, and it's like just filled with this like drive. And here it's more like, oh, look, like we're having fun, right?
Man, well, this was awesome. I think we could talk for hours more, but we got to call at some
Oh yeah.
point. Before I let you go, is there anything you want the audience to know?
No, like explore the stuff, like try out all the cool things you want to try. Remember that talking about something is exactly the same amount of time it takes to type it into ChatGPT, and you can do both at the same time. And then that's how I get most of my stuff done these days.
Excellent. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.